Good morning and welcome to the Skeinz Diaries. I am Marie. You are with episode 236, and welcome along for a special epic sale edition this Wednesday, 22nd of March. Sorry for the tardiness you may have seen in social media. I was over at the mill. Claire and I whipped over there just after 8 o'clock, and we were literally scavenging, like leaping over fadges and going through different bits and pieces and seeing what yarn, because there's always little bits and pieces over there, sort of 5 kilos of this and 10 kilos of that, and just seeing what yarn that we could find that we could pop through the steamer, which is the one piece of equipment that we're able to use at the moment, from sort of a colouring perspective, since the dye house is mostly out of commission. So it's just seeing what we could get our sticky little paws onto and convert into yarn for you guys for the epic sale, because you've been you've been cleaning us out of house and home, guys. So we're needing to find more yarn. So that's what we were doing this morning, and we did come up with 2 definites and one possibility, one hopefully, possibly, definitely, maybe. So it's just great. In fact, one of them I'm going to get twisted off today. It's actually a dip dye. Would you believe? A dip dye that we found that had been done, that had been placed in a bag, put into a different place where it normally doesn't live, wasn't supposed to be there, and we stumbled across it. And I was like, what's this? And they're like, oh yeah, that was supposed to come to you. So really excited about that. And I'm speaking of dip dyes, you lot, I swear. So I photographed a dip dye yesterday called Sweet William. And it's a really lovely, quirky little yarn. And in fact, the yarn that I found is on exactly the same base. And Sweet William is on a DK 100% wool base. It's what we call a 360 bar 4 count. So it's at the finest end of DK. So it's actually on that merge point between sport weight and double knitting. So it's actually, you could knit it either way. So it's a wee bit heavier. It is heavier than Southlander Sport. So it's a heavier weight than Southlander Sport, but it is a lighter end of DK. So it's a yarn that works beautifully for baby knitting, but it wasn't machine washable. It was just completely natural, but it was a lovely yarn, a really, really lovely yarn, lovely handle, it was beautiful, and it took the dye beautifully. I thought Sweet William was something quite lovely, so I photographed it. I made a beautiful graphic to put out in the newsletter for you this morning, and I'd loaded it up late yesterday. Claire the night before had done all the paperworky codey things, so I got it loaded up and got all the newsletter and everything prepared. Well, you guys found it and snaffled it, didn't you? So I couldn't even I had to make a whole new newsletter this morning because Sweet William is sweet gone. He's gone John. So I'm very glad that you loved Sweet William so much. So I'm going to bring you something new today. Hopefully, fingers crossed today, or at least I'll get it sorted today to talk to you about it tomorrow. So that was hilarious. I did think it was quite funny. So well done if you managed to get some of the beautiful Sweet William. But what you didn't figure out that I'd gotten back, and they'd come in late, and this is in the newsletter, which I've just literally pressed send on before I came here, is we managed to get 8 more of these Zing interchangeable sets, the deluxe sets. I'm going to pull this out and show these to you. Honestly, every time we get these Zing sets in, they just disappear. So this is the 3rd order of Zings that we've had since the sale started. And I think this might be a last if they haven't got any more stock. Morning, everyone. Everyone's up and at 'em this morning. Anywho, these... Oh, now I've gone and put the... This is hot. Oh, well done, Marie. There we go. There we go. So this is the Zing sets. They come in this really wonderful kit. Now, I had never knitted with these for the longest time, and it was actually there's quite a few, Delene being one, Susan Hagedorn is another. They had come to me and said, oh Marie, you really do need to get Zings in. Zings are fantastic. I'd used symphonies. I actually personally was a Nova girl from a Knit Pro perspective. So Novas is what I'd used. I like a metal needle. And I also have a lot of Addies. And the Addies I've had for a long, long time. And my interchangeable set actually is an Eddie set. And they are, and I think I've talked about them before. I've got a short tip Eddie set, which is great, I have to say, for sort of doing sleeves or traveling, because they're sort of quite, the tips themselves are sort of like a 2/3 size. I love them because I use them a lot for sleeve knitting. It's so funny. I almost think of them like my sleeve set. Anyway, we got these Zings in, and it was a big investment for us this time last year. I think we got them all just not quite a year ago, and they have just flown out. This set is fabulous. It's a good, what I call a workhorse set. So from 3.5 through to 8mm, which is standard for most sets. You've got your cables, you've got your stoppers. It comes in this nice, neat zip-up case. So everything is together. But those needles, I tried out those needles. So everyone was raving and raving and raving and raving and raving and raving and raving about the Zings. So I thought, right, I'm going to buy a couple of tips. And when I knitted my love note over the summer, my summer break in January, I bought the 2 sets of tips. And believe me, it's not because I need more needles in my life, because I have squillion needles. But I thought, no, if I'm going to sell these needles, I need to actually have knitted something and see how they perform for myself. So bought the 2 tips, knit the entire love note using the Zings, except for the sleeves, because I did actually cheat and went back to my Addies, because I like the little short tips to go around in a small circumference. And they were fabulous. I loved them. Absolutely loved them. Stitches flew off the needles. There's a slight sort of brushed feeling across the shank of the needle, which allows things to glide, but they're not as slippery as the Novas. The Novas are that sort of they're very, very slippery. And the Novas are great if you're used to using a very smooth, sort of slippery type needle. So if you're used to using the Addies, as I mentioned, you'll like the Novas. The Novas got a very sharp point and tip. However, these Zings have this beautiful satin sort of finish, very, very much like higher chair goose. So which we don't have, but if you like that sort of style, so that still gives you that lovely metal glide, but without it being so slippery and slidey, you sort of still feel like you've got a little bit of purchase with your stitches. So it was lovely, really, really lovely. And they've got these lovely little tips. So we've got 8 more of these, $95.95, so $95.95, and you're saving $24. So if you've been sort of thinking about getting yourself an interchangeable set, I think this is a really good starter set for you. If you've sort of been using, and if you've been using other tips, here's the thing. I mean, having a full set, where I think these come into their own, just put this back in its little cellophane, where I think these sets come into their own is things like travel. If you're traveling, because this case is worth its weight in gold, you can easily slip that into your knitting or your project bag. We've still got some, I think we've still got some bags I definitely know I've got bags in store. But these slip into your bag, you know that you've got there. And if you're going away and you don't have the needle size that you want in that peg, well, you just pull out like those larger size needles. So if you're knitting in that sort of 4-ply DK-ish 10-ply zone, well, you can just slip out the couple of bigger sizes, slip in extra sets of the of your other interchangeable tips in there, so you've got them, especially if they're Knit Pro, because all the cables work together with them, and then you can keep all your needles together in one place. So the case is a portable case for you. We do actually also have cases for sale as well, so if you've already got a million tips but you want to put them together into one place, do have a look at those cases. And I say all of this and they're probably sold out, knowing my luck, but we do get them in, and people who have bought the cases love them. As I said, I definitely know I've got some in store. So if you come and visit in store, have a look. The other yarn, actually, I was going to talk about this yarn in a couple of days, but I've brought it forward after our Sweet William moment, because I was going to talk about Sweet William this morning. I can't, because you've stolen Sweet William from me. So I'm going to talk about this. Oh gosh, and they're all falling down. I've had it in here today because it's a wee bit quieter in here. Pearl luster. I know I've talked about pearl luster before. Pearl luster, I had to make the really tough decision. So pearl luster is not being discontinued because I know there are some massive pearl luster fans out there, and you adore it, and you do garments with it and baby stuff with it and heirloom shawls with it. You absolutely love it. We are discontinuing these bright shades. So all these bright shades are saying goodbye. But we will be starting to introduce some more paler shades. We've already I showed you the two new Whisper Fine shades that were the Bellini, the green tea, and what was the third one? Bellini, green tea, and one other. Can't remember what the other one was. It was purple. There we go, Provence. So they will be finding their way into this. So that hasn't happened yet. It was on the list to be done before Gabby, Gabby that made our lives more difficult. So these guys are going, and they are being sold out at $5.95 a ball. Why is that so amazing? It is amazing because this is a 60-40 blend of Suri alpaca and organic merino. Now, Suri alpaca is those alpacas that have got that really crazy locks on them, sort of shaggy locks, whereas the sort of fluffy ones that you see sort of out and about, those ones are called mostly Hakaya alpacas. Hakaya alpacas. These are Suri. Now, there's a lustrousness in the locks in Suri alpaca to the point that often when you see Suri alpaca, it looks very, very much like mohair. It's got a very similar sort of sheen to it and texture. It's this particular Suri, it's very soft, but it's the sheen. It's the sheen that you get, and you probably don't see it on camera, but this has got a beautiful, beautiful sheen. We add the organic merino in there just to give it, because of course alpaca doesn't have a lot of memory, but the organic merino gives it a little bit of spring and bounce. Not a huge amount, but a wee bit, and it just gives a little bit more sumptuousness to the yarn. It's a fantastic yarn. It is what the Americans would call a fingering weight yarn. It is or light fingering probably. It's 225 meters per ball, so that's 450 meters per 100 grams. So it definitely sits in the light fingering category if you're looking at US patterns. But that means when it comes to doing shawl patterns, especially where so many of those shawl patterns are using yarns that are 100 gram skeins in that 400 to 450 meters per skein territory, or even 500 meters per skein, some of them, pearl luster will slip on in there and substitute just like a good thing. So you can actually do that. And I have seen people use pearl luster in a lot of Stephen West patterns. It just looks amazing. And the beautiful shine and sheen and drape absolutely lends itself to shawls. We are getting more people doing a lot of hat and heirloom shawls, which is why we've kept all those soft tones. Pearl luster is an absolute favourite for people for christening shawls, wedding shawls, special occasion heirloom shawls. So all those softer shades are the ones that people like to have. If you're a person who loves brights like me, you need to stock up now and get your pearl luster now in those bright shades. So they're all going out at $5.95 a ball. So it's $3 a ball off. It's the cheapest that we've ever had it. And in fact, it's getting, well, it is pretty much cost plus GST because these fibers are expensive. And yeah, you really do need to snap pearl luster up. Now, pearl luster can also just be used for garments. And I pulled this garment out, even though it was done on a dip dye, it was a dip dye that was placed over the top of the pearl luster base yarn. So some of you may remember the Fine Romance. Here it is here. And this sweet wee top is a Dera by Libby of Truly Myrtle. And this is the yarn all knitted up. And as you can see, look at that beautiful fabric. It makes a fantastic fabric, which is both light to wear, but yet warm. It really is lovely, really lovely. Excuse me. The joys of hay fever. Sorry about that. So it is utterly, utterly, utterly delightful. This pattern and this top are peas and carrots really go well together. I think we've got Itsumo online available as well. That would be another pattern by Truly Myrtle that would work beautifully with this yarn, as would Huia, I think would work also very well. And I've got a funny feeling Maiden could be at a finer weight too. So those are sort of yarn options. The ladies' lunch tea, I've talked about that by the wonderful, wonderful Julie from Harney's Hoolies. That's another one that I think that you should consider. She has, it's a fabulous t-shirt. She's designed it for her silk yarns. She is an absolute silk fanatic with silk yarns, but this would give you a really, really good option. And those, and it's also, she's done plain tees. She's got them striped. I know she's working on a new variant at the moment. So if you are looking for a lighter garment, because I have people say to me, oh, I don't knit for myself, Marie, because I get too hot. And let's face it, when we're all ladies of a certain age, it is what it is. So this is where doing garments in something like this is great, because it allows you to wear a knitted garment, but not to blow the thermostat, as it were. So it really does make a lovely amount. Now this Adira, just to let you know, that used 185 grams. So that's essentially 4 balls to make that project. 4 balls. So it's $24 in yarn for a premium yarn. That's the beauty of 225 meters per ball, my friend. So you don't need a lot. Seriously, buying a single bag will get you a full-on garment and plus spares, or even buying a couple of sets of 5s. It would be fantastic. So do make sure you get that before it all disappears. Oh, Callum's asking, is there a way to get a metallic shine on real wool? That's a really good question, Callum. The way we've tended to do it is we've actually added a metallic, usually a polyester binder with a metallic effect in there. I think Fields of Gold was one that we made many years ago for Crucci. I do know that years ago with Massey University, or it might have even been Lincoln or Massey, one or the other, and Kelly did experiments by actually trying to augment gold into yarn, and they were wanting to actually do that for anti-inflammatory properties, because I don't know whether you're aware of this, but gold as a metal has a tremendous anti-inflammatory properties. So they were playing around with that. But no, the short answer to that is no, we don't have any dyes that are capable of that. And I don't know whether or not they've actually tried to use printed or spray dyes with those pigments in them to actually attach them to the fibre. So yeah, that's something that you could play around with. I guess it would be having a dye that would be fine enough to be able to penetrate the fibre to be fixed and fast. I guess that would be the challenge. But yeah, interesting. Oh, and stellina, obviously. There's that little fine stellina. That was all the rage actually a few years ago, wasn't it? Sparkly socks. I haven't seen much of that around. So yeah, no, they're definitely around. All right, I'm going to keep going because I want to get out and get some stuff done before the shop opens. So as I said, I'll bring you the new dip dye tomorrow, so you can see that. So do make sure that there are so many of these yarns that once they're gone, they're gone. So don't. Actually, it's interesting. Yesterday we had loads of people. Actually, we had several groups that had been on Saturday, then again Monday, who then came back yesterday because they were checking out patterns. They were doing all their research and making final buying decisions. So I think there's a lot of that happening. The blankets, don't forget those blankets are there. They are an incredible price, the Argenti and the Carboni, and they are so soft, particularly with these cooler days coming along. So if you know somebody that feels the cold and you want to get them a premium quality woven blanket in natural fibres for a fraction of the price that you will buy it elsewhere, do make sure you snap those blankets up because they are a steal. But on that note, I'm going to head off and steal myself away and go and do some more work. I'll talk to you guys again tomorrow. Take care.